Welcome back to the channel. This is DeadMf. We are back again in the prison called life. Now somebody asked me to make a video about why marriage and kids is overrated or are overrated, whatever. But I'm not gonna talk about the kids part because I've touched on it a lot, on why you shouldn't bring kids here, blah 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 blah. We all know the reasons, so I'm not gonna touch on that. So what I've never really talked about is marriage, why marriage is overrated. Some people have different opinions, obviously. If you want to get married, go ahead. I'm not somebody who's gonna be here and tell you what to do. That's absurd. People will always do what they want to do. I think trying to tell people what to do is really absurd. Unless they can't think for themselves, then that's the only way you can tell somebody that, listen, do this, if they cannot think for themselves. Maybe they have a mental problem. But if they can and they're capable of making decisions, it's absurd to tell a person what to do for themselves. But that's not the topic. The topic is why marriage is overrated. So let's get right into it. Main in the prison called life. Now, back in the days, marriage was never really about love. It has never been about love. People get married because they think they love each other, or they actually do love each other. Then they think, you know what, let's make this official, let's get married. But it's often a bad idea, if you're going to base marriage on love alone. Just because I love you doesn't mean I have to get married to you. Because now let me tell you what the problem is. The problem is that once two people get married, everything that you own, your wife also owns everything. The wife, unless you do a prenup, but people generally don't do prenups, but everything is tied to each other. Whatever your wife does, it impacts you. Everything that you do can impact your wife or your husband out there, whether for good or for bad. So you should know that whatever you do in a marriage, how it's actually going to impact your husband or your wife. That's one of the things that people don't know. So it was never about love. It was about stability, security. People wanted to bring people together so they can both be secure. It was for alliances between families, so it was about connecting different families in exchange of resources, things like that. It was always about establishing a power structure between two families or making two families stronger, and the individuals who are in the marriage, it was really just about them, both having a person that, they can use, for lack of a better word, because if you're my wife, I can use you for something. If I'm your husband, you can use me for something. I provide, you cook, you take care of the house, all of that stuff. So that used to be the case back then, but now, times have changed. People are working, both men and women, they're both working. So is there really a need for people to get married, based on the previous reasons that people used to get married for? People back then didn't get married for love. It was just for, it was purely transactional. It was for transactional reasons. But now people get married for love, People get married for love. And I can tell you, man, the risks are just not worth it. This is why marriage is overrated. If you're not doing it for the base reason that it was invented for, then it's just not worth it, you know. You're just gonna stress yourself out. You're just gonna stress yourself out because you're gonna be looking at things like cheating. You know, you're gonna be thinking, does this person love me for money or for what? But back then you knew, you know, she's in it for the money. I'm in it because I want the wife. This and that, yada yada, connecting two families. That was the reason. But now it's complicated because the reasons for you guys getting married, they are futile. You know, they are completely useless. You're doing it because it's based on love. Then you find out that marriage and just being in a relationship are two completely different things. Two completely different things, man. Two completely different things. In marriage, it is much more civil and legal, and you know, you can get in a lot of trouble. You know, you can get divorced and all your assets are taken away. You know, and you know, if you don't sign a prenup, it's gonna be like you're here for the money. If you sign a prenup, it's gonna be like, oh, so you don't love me for who I am. Do you see the confusion? And let's be honest, you know, marriages nowadays, people are getting divorced because they're not happy. A lot of infidelity is going on, where whereas in if there was infidelity in those past marriages, they would be overlooked because people understood we're not here for that. We're not here for romantic love, you know. They would be overlooked. The wife could say whatever, you know, as long as he takes care of me, I don't care about that. But because you guys are getting married for love, if you do all that cheating and you know all that stuff out there, it gets tricky, you know. Then you lose all your stuff, you get divorced, the kids hate you, oh, your dad is a bad guy. Or even the, you know, the woman does the man wrong, that's like, oh, you know, your dad is terrible, your mom is terrible, and all of that stuff. So it gets really tricky, you know. So I would suggest, man, that if you want to get married, don't do it because of love, you know, do it because of transactional reasons. Then it won't be so bad. You know, now it's bad because people do it for love. And people forget that love is fleeting. You know, it's a fleeting emotion. I can love you today, but tomorrow you do something wrong to me. I don't really love you like that. You understand? And in a marriage, I'm obliged to stick with your nonsense, you know? But if you stick with the nonsense based on just love alone, it's going to be difficult. Eventually, you're going to leave, you know? So it's much better to just say, you know what, I want to get married to you, but, you know, it's purely for transactional reasons. Let's do it because we have something we can benefit from each other, either materially, you know, materialistically, or socially, you know. You want to prove to your friends or whoever, you know, your parents, whatever. Let's get married just purely based on those things, not just because I love you and all of that. Because if you want to get married to a person just because you love them, 99% of the time it's going to fail. Fuck, that was a big burp. It's going to fail, you know. 99% of the time it's going to fail. I promise you that. Get married because there's something to benefit. And you guys must be clear that, listen, man, you know, I'm gonna benefit off this, you're gonna benefit off this. Let's do it. That just be real with each other, man. The problem is that people are just not real with each other. You want to convince the person that I'm marrying you because I love you, and then it fails, you know. Tell them, yay, man, I'm gonna get some money out of this, you know. So if you want to get married to a person just because you love them, you know, 99% of the time is going to fail. You know, might as well just say I have a life partner. I don't know if people are doing that nowadays, but having a life partner, you know, just say I have a life partner, we stay together, you know, we do our own thing, we just live together. That's a life partner, instead of involving the government into your stuff and all of that stuff. That way, if you decide that you're fed up with your life partner, you can just leave them just like that. You have no obligation contractually to stay in the, in the relationship. You can just decide that, you know what, man, I want to leave this. But marriage is a lot more difficult. So many things are involved. So many things are at stake. So unless you're doing it for, like I said, unless you're doing it for transactional reasons, marriage is overrated, man. There's no reason why you should get married if you're just doing it for love. If you're just doing it for love, it's a waste of time. It is a waste of time. If you're going to get married to someone because you love them, it is guaranteed to fail. It is a waste of time. But if you are going to get married to someone because both of you guys understand that we're going to benefit of this marriage, we're going to benefit of this partnership, that makes a lot more sense. Because then it's not really fake, you know. People think marriage, like, again, back to my first point, marriage was never about romantic love. That's why there used to be arranged marriages, because it was never about love. you know People understood that, hey man, this is about, you know benefiting from this unionship. That's all it is about. If my daughter gets married to that powerful family, it's gonna be good for me. I'm gonna be respected. She's gonna be well off. She's beautiful. She knows her way around the house and all of that stuff. So she's good, she's well off. It wasn't about love. I love you, let's get married. Then 5 years later, it's like, yeah, you guys still in love? Then it's a different story. Like, I thought I knew who this person was, but he cheated on me. Now you gotta divorce. Now you gotta, if you didn't do a prenup, now you're disappointing all your parents and all of that stuff, and all the friends who thought you guys were really in love with each other. It's a lot of BS. So, marriage is overrated, man. Like, honestly. It's really overrated. If you're going to get married because you love somebody, again, you gotta rethink that decision. You gotta think of something else other than love. And yeah, just do it for transactional reasons. If not, I would advise you do not get married. But of course, you can do whatever you want. If you want to experience that taste of divorce, go ahead, no problem. It's your life to live. Anyway, man, this is DeadMf and I'm signing out.